Just like with all good things in life, when it comes to the film industry, there are plenty of scams out there. If you are relatively new to film, or if you are desperately trying to get into film, or desperately trying to find money for your film, then you are a prime target for many of the scammers out there. What are some of the common scams that exist in the film industry? What are many of the red flags to watch out for? And how do you avoid being burned? Welcome back to Filmmaking for Noobs. I'm Kyle Lawrence, and today we're talking about film industry scams. More specifically, what the common ones are and how to avoid them. Over the years, I've seen many common film industry scams. I've seen many people try to scam me, and I've seen some filmmakers fall prey to other scammers out there. Quite often, the reason why film industry scams work are because A, they either appear like real opportunities, or B, people are so desperate to either get into the film industry or to get their project off the ground that they're willing to take any chance and any risk on any opportunity that comes their way. This is how the scammers usually get you. But there are a number of red flags that you can watch out for, and hopefully this will help you to avoid these scams. Encountering just one or two of these red flags does not automatically mean that that opportunity is for sure a scam. It just simply means that anytime you encounter any red flag, no matter what the situation is, it definitely is hopefully an indicator for you to take a step back, do your due diligence, and do a little bit more research into this possibility before agreeing to anything. So, some common red flags to watch out for are urgency. If the opportunity being offered to you is presented with this dire sense of urgency that is not explained or doesn't really have a reason why it's urgent, this is definitely something to watch out for. It doesn't automatically mean that it's a scam, but you should take a step back and do some research. Now, if a project just lost an actor and they're last minute looking for a replacement to start shooting tomorrow, then obviously a sense of urgency is expected, and it's not a bad thing. But a producer or investor or executive that is urgently trying to get you to agree to something or sign something with them, especially when it comes to your own project, and especially if you just met this person, that's probably an indication that something is not quite right and you should take a step back and do some research. Real executives, especially with larger production companies or studios or networks, they definitely take the time to consider the project, maybe even weeks or months before they even give you an interest. Deals don't usually happen on the first meeting. Asking for payment up front. In most cases, asking for payment up front for just about anything in the film industry is a big red flag. Especially when it comes to agents and managers, they make money when you make money. After you get paid, they take a percentage, that's their cut. That's how they make a living, is by selling you. Any agent or manager who asks you to pay them up front is not reputable, and they should not be trusted. Too good to be true. If an opportunity seems too good to be true, it most likely is. Now, if you push yourself really hard for the last decade and you've been fostering a relationship with this executive for a couple years and you finally got hired to direct a big show, that may seem too good to be true as well, but it's also probably a legitimate opportunity. You worked the industry the way that you're supposed to work it, you foster those relationships, you pushed yourself to be better. That's how this industry works. However, someone that you just met that you've never heard of, who has also never heard of you, offers you $10 million to make your first film, even though you've never produced or directed anything in your life, and they want to sign with you right now, right this minute after the first meeting, it most likely is too good to be true, and it's most likely a scam. Pushy and aggressive language. The film industry is an industry that requires a lot of diplomacy. There is a mutual sense of respect and trust among anyone of any professional standing in this industry. Everyone in this industry knows the importance of building bridges, not burning bridges, because they realize that anyone, even that goofy PA on set, could someday be your boss, they could someday be the person that makes or breaks your career, and they could someday have a very big influence in your life. Therefore, maybe for the wrong reasons, but everyone in this industry understands the importance of mutually respecting and trusting each other. So when you encounter someone who is really pushy and aggressive, especially right off the bat, whether it's a scam or not, it is definitely a red flag that should cause you to step back and ask yourself, is this really someone that I want to work closely with for the next 2 to 5 years? bogus claims. I once saw a website for some sort of film grant that I had never heard of, and on this really poorly designed website, they had a list of their sponsors for their film grant. Under their list of sponsors, they had logos for at least 40 well-known, popular household brand name companies. However, all of the logos were presented squished or disproportionate in some way. It was on a website that had word art from 1997. It looked absolutely horrible. There is no way in the world that any of these brands would have ever allowed their logo to be misrepresented in an incorrect fashion on a website that looked this bad. Therefore, they likely didn't sponsor this film grant. And when you see this huge number of sponsors and yet they somehow can't afford to hire a real web developer, that tells you something is definitely bogus about this claim. Bogus claims are usually an indicator of bogus opportunity. Profit sharing. If you're looking for opportunities to be part of the cast or crew on a project and you come across a small indie producer who is not able to pay anyone but is promising that you'll get paid on the back end as a percentage of profits from what the film generates, this is usually a red flag. First of all, no producer can promise that. If they can promise that you're going to get paid, then they should pay you up front. If they don't have the money to pay you up front, that's totally fine. There are plenty of cases where that is perfectly reasonable and legitimate, but if they are promising profit sharing on the back end, that is a promise that they usually can't keep. There is no guarantee that any film will even get completed or generate income. If you do get on board with a project like this, you should assume that you definitely will not get paid ever, and it is really just an opportunity for you to gain some experience. Although I would also really recommend watching out for any sort of opportunities that make promises like that you know they really can't keep. Requiring payment for some outlandish expense. If you're an actor and you want to get into acting, yes, you require headshots. If you're a producer, a filmmaker, a writer, a director, and you're trying to get your project off the ground, yes, you require some nice materials. And all of those things, headshots, sizzle reels, pitch decks, they cost money. However, an agent who's going to require you to purchase a very specific $1,500 headshot package from a very specific photographer and not allow you to choose your own photographer or bring your own headshots or get your headshots done somewhere else, that agent or manager is probably not a reputable person. In the same way, some sort of investor or partner or producer who is going to require you to pay a specific person that they know a certain large amount of money for a pitch deck or certain materials, even though they are unwilling to look at whatever materials you may already have or unwilling to work with someone else that you have in mind that might be more cost effective, that is also a really good indicator that there is something off about this opportunity or something not quite right. This is a red flag that you should watch out for and beware of. No, you do not have to use the services of only very specific individuals in order to be signed with some sort of agent or opportunity. And when it comes to casting, definitely be sure to watch out for any red flags in casting notices or any sort of thing that comes across as weird or creepy or off in a casting notice. If it looks suspicious, it probably has a good reason for why it's suspicious. There are lots of weirdos out there who say that they're casting actors for a project when really they have less than ideal intention. Casting notices should be clear, informative. They should tell you some information about the project. They should tell you information about the director and the producer. There are times and situations where for really large projects from really large studios, certain bits of information have to be confidential, but usually that sort of casting notice is not going to be posted on Facebook. It's going to come through a reputable and legitimate manager or agent. And yes, there are a lot of really inexperienced producers or directors or first-time filmmakers out there who may really be looking to just create something cool and gain some experience, and they may not know how the best way to format a casting notice is. It may not come off as professional. Don't completely write off those individuals, but it's very important to watch out for the scams and the scumbags. If something during any of the casting process seems sketchy or unprofessional, it probably is, and it's probably an indicator that you need to step back and make sure that this is a safe and legitimate opportunity before you go any farther. I do have an episode that talks about how to do the casting process of your low-budget film, which includes information on what a proper casting notice should include. So if you're interested in that, definitely check out the link to that episode in the description of this video. At any point when you are doing the research to look into an opportunity to determine whether or not this is a legitimate or a good opportunity for you, or even if you're past the point of knowing, obviously it's not a scam, but I want to know if this is going to be a good person for me to work with in whatever regard, IMDb is a really great resource for that. IMDb, if you don't know, is the Internet Movie Database. It does require some verification process to get your name and your credits listed on IMDb. It does require verification from them to get a film or another project listed on IMDb. So it is a little bit of a safer indicator of whether or not someone has experience. However, do also keep in mind that just because someone has 10 or 15 credits on IMDb, that doesn't actually mean that they're going to be the best fit for you or for this opportunity, and it doesn't always mean that they're legitimate either. In addition to those red flags, here are a few things just to be aware of or to keep in mind as well. Illegitimate screenwriting competitions and film festivals. Film festivals are a really great way to get your work out in front of an audience, to gain some recognition and exposure, and it's really nice that the film festival is paying for your film to be in a theater. They're not paying you, but they're paying for the cost involved in putting your film in a theater, which makes it a whole lot easier for you and a lot less work on your end. So festivals are great, and there's lots of really great festivals out there, but there's also a number of festivals out there to watch out for because they really aren't going to give your film an audience. Definitely do your research and find out whether or not this is a good festival for you to be submitting your project to. And screenwriting competitions, once again, there are a few really good screenwriting competitions out there where they actually have real screenwriters with experience that work for major studios, judging the scripts. They give you opportunities to get your scripts in front of those people. The prizes are usually pretty lucrative, cash prizes or production value incentives, or the prizes are some sort of first look deal or getting your script in front of a literary agent or someone who's going to help make or break your career. Those are good screenwriting competitions, but there's only a handful of legit screenwriting competitions like that. Many other screenwriting competitions out there, even if they are completely legit and have the best intentions behind them, they don't actually have real professionals judging the scripts, or they don't really offer great incentive. They're not going to give you an audience like a film festival does because they can't present your script to an audience because it hasn't been produced yet. So it's really not going to give you many opportunities for exposure or recognition. Therefore, the majority of screenwriting competitions out there are definitely something that you should watch out for and probably are a waste of money and a waste of time. Once again, there are a few really good screenwriting competitions out there that are definitely worth getting into at least once or twice in your life, but for the most part, most screenwriting competitions are not worth your money. Another common scam or thing to watch out for in this industry is any sort of filmmaker who says that they can create any feature film that you want for the small cost of $30,000 all included. They're going to do it all themselves to save money. They have their own equipment to save money. They don't have to bring in a crew to save money. They're going to try to convince you why raise $500,000 to spend on your feature film project when they can do it for you for only 30 grand or 20 grand or 50 grand or whatever the number they give is. And they're going to say, why spend all that money on your film project? You can hire me for so much less. I'm going to do it all myself, save money that way, and it's going to look great. That's a really good indication that it's not going to look great. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't any legitimate people out there that can make some really great stuff for really low cost and they have a really small team of amazing individuals. That's certainly a possibility, but what you should always do when you encounter an opportunity like that is to check out their past work and don't just watch what they've done before, but also ask them very specific questions about each of the projects that they show you. For example, ask them what exactly was your role in this project and how did you pull that off? Or what was the budget for this sample that you sent me? Because if the budget for that project they sent you is very similar to the budget that they're telling you it's going to cost for your project, you're probably going to get very similar quality to that, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. If they are behaving more like a salesperson than they are like whatever position they claim to be, a producer, executive, whatever, then they most likely are a salesperson. All that said, I hope that this episode has helped you to learn what some of the common film industry scams are, what many of the red flags are, how to watch out for these scams, and how to hopefully avoid getting ripped off, losing time, money, or dignity. If you found this helpful, I really appreciate it if you share this with your friends. Like, share, subscribe, comment below. Thanks for watching.